Greater Manchester hides more than bustling streets. From haunted halls to forgotten theatres and shadowed parks, these 11 eerie places still carry whispers of tragedy and restless spirits. Heaton Hall. In the heart of Heaton Park stands Heaton Hall, an elegant 18th century mansion whose grace hides a reputation for restless spirits. By day, its pale stone front and sweeping lawns welcome families and walkers, but as dusk settles, the atmosphere shifts. Locals speak of sudden cold gusts that come from nowhere, and the distant sound of carriage wheels on gravel when the drives stand empty. The hall's most enduring legend is of a phantom nicknamed Alice. Dressed in a long white nightdress, she is seen drifting through the great rooms and the glass-walled orangery, her outline faintly luminous in the moonlight. Some say Alice was a servant who died tragically in a winter storm, others that she was a gentlewoman who lost her mind after a broken engagement. Each Christmas, her presence grows stronger. Around that season, a ghostly horse-drawn carriage is said to appear on the driveway, the horse's breath steaming in the frosty air, while no mortal driver guides them. Witnesses describe the clatter of hooves and the creak of leather harness echoing long after the vision fades. Park staff and nighttime visitors add their own accounts. A security guard once felt a sudden icy breath at his ear and heard a whisper of his name, though he was alone. Joggers report glimpsing a pale figure among the trees who vanishes as they approach. In the orangery, where soft moonlight spills through tall windows, a faint scent of old roses lingers with no flowers nearby. Whether Alice is a grieving soul, a memory impressed on stone, or a tale born of winter imagination, the effect is the same. Heaton Hall takes on an otherworldly life after dark. Those who pass beneath its high portico at night speak of an indefinable presence, as if the house itself remembers centuries of quiet sorrow. From this silent mansion, our journey moves on deeper into Greater Manchester's haunted heart, where the next stop waits with doors that creak of their own accord and unseen footsteps echo in empty rooms. The King's Head. On a quiet corner of Junction Road in Bolton, the King's Head appears to be just another old public house, but locals know it hides an unruly past and a restless present. Centuries of laughter and arguments have seeped into its thick brick walls, and when the last customers leave the building, does not truly settle. Staff speak of sudden bangs echoing through the upper rooms when no one is there. Heavy doors slam with a force that rattles the glass, and lights in the bar switch on and off of their own accord. More than once, beer taps have mysteriously turned off mid-pour, as if an unseen landlord disapproved of the night's merriment. Each morning, beer mats are sometimes discovered stacked in neat towers that no one admits to making, as though invisible hands were at work long after closing. The cellar carries the strongest legends. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of a Cavalier soldier who may have hidden here during the English Civil War. In the cool dark beneath the pub, cold spots form suddenly, and objects are moved or vanish entirely. One landlord described a rush of icy air and the distinct sound of boots crossing the flagstones behind him, only to find the space empty. Even the bar itself is not free from strange activity. Patrons have heard faint music drifting from the closed function room and laughter where no gathering is taking place. A former barmaid told of a soft but insistent whisper at her ear late one night, though the room was empty except for her. Whether the mischievous spirit is the long-ago Cavalier or some other forgotten soul, the effect remains unsettling. Visitors who linger after hours sometimes feel a brush on the shoulder or catch a glimpse of movement in the corner of their eye. At the King's Head, the day's last pint is never truly the last sound, for the building keeps its own company after dark. From this lively yet haunted inn, the trail of Greater Manchester's ghosts leads onward to sacred ground, where ancient stones and spectral legends wait in the shadows. Bolton Parish Church. At the heart of Bolton stands the imposing St. Peter's Church, known locally as Bolton Parish Church. By daylight, its soaring tower and quiet churchyard give an impression of enduring peace. But as dusk falls, a different story begins. The site's history stretches back centuries, its stones layered with memory, tragedy, and whispered legend. The most persistent tale is of a solitary male figure who roams the grounds and the dark tunnel that once ran beneath the canal. Some say he is the restless ghost of a man whose body was discovered in 1829, bound inside a bag and thrown into the cold water. His identity was never known, and the mystery of his death lingers as keenly as the phantom footsteps that echo across the graveyard. Eyewitnesses speak of seeing him glide soundlessly between leaning headstones, a dark outline barely separated from the mist. Others describe the unnerving sensation of being watched as they cross the churchyard after evening service. A former verger told of hearing the muffled sound of heavy boots on the cobbles behind him, though each time he turned, the path lay empty. The old tunnel adds its own chill to the story, though now sealed local law insists that the murdered man still walks its length, retracing his final desperate moments. A faint smell of damp earth and canal water sometimes drifts upward near the sealed entrance, even on dry days. On winter nights, people have reported an icy draft rising from the stone, as if the darkness below is exhaling. Inside the church, the atmosphere can change without warning. Visitors describe sudden drops in temperature and the quiet rustle of unseen movement near the pews. Choir members rehearsing alone have heard soft footsteps pacing the aisles, only to find no one there. Whether this is the spirit of the unknown victim or a deeper echo of the church's long past, Bolton Parish Church remains one of Greater Manchester's most haunted sanctuaries. From this shadowed ground, the journey continues to the Oldham Coliseum Theatre, where the drama of the stage is matched by a ghostly performance that refuses to end. Oldham Coliseum Theatre. In the heart of Oldham stands the Oldham Coliseum Theatre, a Victorian gem where velvet seats and ornate plasterwork seem to hold echoes of every performance since its opening in the late 19th century. Yet the most enduring presence here is not a living actor, but the spirit of one who met his end on stage. The central tale is as tragic as it is persistent. In 1947, during a performance of Macbeth, actor Harold Norman was accidentally stabbed by a stage sword. Though rushed to hospital, he died of his wounds. Local legend insists Harold never truly left the theatre. Patrons and staff speak of sudden chills that gripped the stage precisely where the fatal scene occurred, as if the building itself remembers the moment of blood and shock. Thursday evenings, the day of Harold's death, are thought to be his chosen time. Stagehands have heard slow footsteps moving across an empty stage, curtains trembling as if brushed by an unseen hand. A former usher recalled locking up after rehearsal and hearing a man softly humming from the darkened wings. When she investigated, the theatre lay silent, but the unmistakable scent of grease paint hung in the air. Audiences, too, have been drawn into the mystery. Several have reported a shadowed figure standing at the edge of the dress circle during performances, fading away when the lights change. Actors rehearsing alone in the morning have found props mysteriously moved, costumes unfastened, or the unmistakable clink of a dropped sword echoing from the wings. Even beyond Harold, There are whispers of other unseen residents, faint whispers in the balcony, a sudden icy draft sweeping through closed corridors, and fleeting shapes caught in the mirrors of the dressing rooms. Each story adds to the sense that the Coliseum is a living memory of every drama it has hosted. Oldham Coliseum remains a place where art and afterlife seem to share the same stage. As the final applause fades each night, another performance quietly begins, one of shadows and memory, where a dedicated actor still answers the call for his cue. From this haunted theatre, the trail of Greater Manchester's spectres leads next to the grand but restless halls of Haigh Hall. Haigh Hall, set amid sweeping parkland in Wigan, Haigh Hall rises like a stone sentinel over centuries of history and family drama. Behind its grand facade lies a story of love, betrayal, and penance that still echoes through its rooms and along its wooded paths. The most enduring legend belongs to Lady Mabel de Haigh. In the Middle Ages, her husband Sir William Bradshaw left to fight in the Holy Wars. Years passed with no word, and Mabel, believing herself widowed, eventually married a Welsh lord. But Sir William was not dead. Disguised as a humble pilgrim, he returned to his home and revealed himself only after gaining entry. In shock and shame, Mabel's second husband fled, only to be caught and killed by the furious Sir William. For this act of blood, William was outlawed for a year and a day, while Mabel performed a long penance that bound her to the hall forever in memory and perhaps in spirit. Visitors and staff speak of footsteps pacing stairways when no one is there, of empty rooms where a lively party seems to be in full swing. In the cellars, gurgling sounds, whispers, and scratching noises break the silence. Some guests have entered a room where dogs refuse to follow and where the air turns unnaturally cold. A faint smell of burning sometimes drifts from the old stables where legend says children once died in a fire. There are more modern encounters too. Gardeners tell of a ghostly figure glimpsed in the upper windows at dusk. Night staff describe hearing a woman sobbing quietly in the blue room, though no one can be found. In the courtyard, echoes of galloping horses have startled evening walkers long after the stables fell silent. Many believe Lady Mabel still walks the grounds, her sorrow woven into every stone and shadow of Haigh Hall. Whether she searches for peace or keeps an eternal watch for her long-dead husbands, her presence lingers soft as the evening mist. From these haunted rooms, our journey through Greater Manchester's most mysterious sights moves on to another spectral gathering place, the Toby Carvery in Bolton, where laughter and unseen footsteps defy the quiet of night. Toby Carvery, Bolton. Along Crompton Way in Bolton stands a busy restaurant with a surprisingly haunted reputation. By day, the Toby Carvery is full of cheerful diners and the smell of roast dinners. Yet when the lights dim and the doors close, the building is said to change, as if unseen guests remain long after the last meal has been served. Staff often speak of sudden chills in the function room, where a tall man dressed in black, sometimes described with a top hat and cloak, has been seen standing silently before fading from sight. On more than one evening, laughter has echoed from that same room when it was locked and empty, the sound rising and falling, like a private gathering hidden just beyond reach. The main staircase carries its own mystery. Several witnesses have watched a woman in a long, old-fashioned dress descend the steps with a slow, deliberate grace, only to vanish before reaching the bottom. Some nights, the temperature along the staircase drops so sharply that breath fogs in the air. Guests have also reported the soft rustle of skirts brushing the wood and the faint scent of lavender drifting behind an invisible presence. There are other subtle disturbances. Chairs are sometimes found moved in the morning as if a quiet meeting took place after hours. Items shift on their own, and faint knocks come from closed rooms. In the stillness of the cellar, bottles occasionally clink, and taps are found turned off, as though someone has tidied up in silence. Legends suggest that the tall man and the lady in the gown may be connected to the land's earlier history, when the area was part of a coaching route and travelers often stayed nearby. Whatever their origin, these figures seem more curious than threatening, as if replaying long-lost routines from a life now past. Today, the Toby Carvery stands as both a welcoming eatery and a quiet stage for these spectral echoes. Patrons may never glimpse the black-clad gentleman or the graceful woman of the stairs, but many leave with the sense that the night here belongs to more than the living. From Bolton's phantom banquets, our journey now turns to another site of hidden history, the University of Bolton, where a solitary figure still walks the shadows of old workshops and quiet streets. University of Bolton. Set where the modern University of Bolton now spreads its lecture halls and studios, an older world once worked and whispered. Long before the present campus rose, the site was home to the Bolton Institute of Technology, with busy workshops and drafty service corridors. When darkness falls and the students have gone, staff say the air still carries something of that earlier age. The most persistent tale centers on a tall, middle-aged man with dark hair, a figure dressed like a caretaker from decades past. He is often glimpsed at the edge of vision, along Dean Road, or near the older buildings that survive from the Institute years. Cleaners locking up late have reported a sudden sense of company and the quiet scrape of a key in a door that no one is using. Inside footsteps sometimes echo through the stairwells, even when every classroom is locked. Security patrols have followed the sound to silent corridors, only for it to fade a few steps ahead, as if someone is always just out of sight. In some lecture rooms, doors that were firmly closed swing open without a breath of wind. Motion detectors occasionally trigger alarms, yet CCTV cameras show nothing but stillness. An incident often retold happened to a night porter making his final round. He saw a tall man standing by the old workshop entrance and called out, assuming it was a colleague. The figure turned, half-smiled, and walked into a side passage that no longer exists. When the porter followed, there was only a blank wall where the doorway had once been. Legends vary on who this spectral caretaker might be. Some say he was a long-serving engineer who took pride in keeping the old machinery running and cannot quite abandon his duty. Others believe he could be a worker who met with an accident during the site's industrial years. Whatever his story, those who sense his presence describe a calm, watchful air, as if he is still making sure everything is safe for the morning. Today, the university thrives with students and bright lights, yet after midnight, the quiet Dean Road campus can feel curiously alive. From these echoing corridors of learning, we move next to Henighans, where a floating grey figure and unearthly music turn a cheerful pub into something far stranger. Henighans, on a quiet stretch of Bury Road in Bolton, stands Henighans, a lively dining pub by day, but a place of unquiet mystery after dark. Beneath the low-timbered ceilings and warm lights, staff and guests speak of a presence that does not belong to the living. The most striking apparition is a ghostly figure with long grey hair and a faded grey smock seen floating nearly a meter above the ground. Several witnesses have watched her drift silently through the front dining room, along the lounge, and even into the ladies' toilets before fading into nothing. One late-night cleaner, certain she was alone, turned from stacking chairs to find the figure gliding past her feet, never touching the carpet. The air grew suddenly cold, and the smell of old wood smoke filled the room, though the hearth was dark. Upstairs, soft music sometimes plays with no source. Staff have heard the faint strains of an old dance tune echoing through empty corridors when the building is locked and silent. In the kitchen, utensils leap from shelves and clatter to the floor, even when neatly stored. One chef recounts arriving early to find a trail of cutlery laid across the tiles as though someone had been setting a spectral table in the night. The identity of this floating woman remains uncertain. Some local historians wonder if she was once a servant in the old farmhouse that stood here long before the pub. Others think she might be tied to a forgotten tragedy in the Brightmet area, perhaps a lost traveler seeking home. Whatever her story, those who encounter her describe not menace, but melancholy, as though she is bound to wander the rooms she once knew. Guests finishing an evening meal sometimes speak of an unexplained chill that sweeps the dining room, or the faint hum of that distant unclaimed music. Staff lock up carefully, but admit that when the lights are off and the door bolted, they sometimes feel watched from the quiet upper floor. From this haunted inn, we turn to the grand civic halls of Stockport Town Hall, where flickering shadows and figures in the night give a public landmark a private lingering unease. Stockport Town Hall, standing in Edward Street with its proud clock tower and elegant Edwardian facade, Stockport Town Hall is a place of ceremony and civic pride. Yet when the offices are dark and the marble corridors silent, it is said to host an audience that belongs to no council meeting. For decades, caretakers and security staff have spoken of figures appearing when the building should be empty. Long after the last wedding reception or council session, shadowy forms drift across the grand staircases and slip through the oak-paneled rooms. One night, watchmen reported pausing in the main hall to lock up when a tall silhouette crossed the far gallery. Thinking a guest had been left behind, he followed quickly, only to find nothing but the echo of his own footsteps. The chill of unseen company is common. In the council chamber, chairs have been heard scraping across the parquet floor, though every seat remains neatly in place. In the upper corridors, an icy breath of air sometimes precedes a soft whisper, or the faint click of shoes on the polished tiles. Some nights, the great organ seems to sigh, as if remembering music from a long-forgotten celebration. No single tale explains the presence. Some suggest a former mayor or dignitary returns to watch over civic duties, unwilling to leave his post. Others speak of a construction worker who fell during the early 20th century building, works his restless spirit, pacing the halls he helped raise. Whatever the truth, the mood is more watchful than menacing, as if the building itself is replaying moments from its long service to the town. Evening cleaners tell of lights that refuse to stay off and doors that quietly close behind them. One staff member recalls feeling a hand brush her shoulder while alone in the archives, the faint smell of pipe smoke, lingering though smoking has long been banned. Today, visitors attend concerts and civic events without fear, yet those who linger after the last applause sometimes sense they are not the only audience in the grand hall. From this stately yet shadowed landmark, we journey next to the Mount in Wigan, where legends of sorrow, sudden violence, and playful spirits intertwine. Beneath an old roof, built over an even older graveyard. The Mount, on Orrell Road in Wigan, stands the Mount, a lively pub and hotel by day, but after closing time, it belongs to a far stranger company. Beneath its timber beams and polished bar lies a darker history, for the building was raised over an old graveyard. Locals say the ground itself remembers. Staff and guests speak of a young girl who drifts across the balcony, smiling as though inviting visitors to follow. In the still hours, She plays hide-and-seek light footsteps pattering in meeting rooms before fading to silence. One bartender once felt a tug at his sleeve, as if a child was seeking attention, but the bar was empty. On the main staircase, the atmosphere changes. Here, the sorrow of a man who took his own life lingers. Patrons describe a heavy sadness and sudden chill, and some claim to hear the faint creak of a rope. Elsewhere, the air carries a different sound, quiet sobbing attributed to a pregnant woman who legend says was beaten and left to die. Down in the cellar, once used to store bodies, the past speaks in sharper tones. Staff have heard the cracking of bones and sudden bangs. A small bearded man is sometimes glimpsed in the corners, and a phantom nun drifts through the low arches. Room 6 of the hotel hides its own secret. A guest once woke to find a man of about 30 standing beside the bed. The figure smiled politely before fading into the dark. Other visitors tell of a barrow boy named Charlie who pushes through anyone in his path. The brewery's own notes mention these ghosts as if they are long-time regulars. Laughter echoes from empty function rooms. Doors close with a slow, deliberate hand. The smell of old ale hangs when no beer has been poured. Despite the activity, the mount feels more mysterious than threatening. Each spirit seems to replay a moment of love loss or duty, rather than seek harm. Yet for those who pause after last orders, the building offers a powerful reminder that the ground beneath Wigan remembers every story laid in its soil. From here, our haunted path continues to Staircase House in Stockport, where the very architecture seems to awaken the dead. Staircase House, in the bustling heart of Stockport's marketplace, stands Staircase House, a timber-framed treasure whose crooked beams and oak paneling conceal a quiet unease. Behind its restored facade lies a centuries-old tangle of merchant life and whispered tragedy. Visitors today admire the fine Jacobean staircase that gives the house its name, yet that very feature is thought to be the center of its strange phenomena. For years, the grand staircase was sealed behind brickwork forgotten until careful restoration uncovered it. Soon after, staff began to hear unexplained banging and sharp tapping as though someone were urgently knocking to be freed. At first, these sounds were dismissed as settling timbers, but they returned on windless nights and in still air. A night watchman described the sensation of a muffled thud beneath his feet, as if footsteps moved up and down a hidden flight within the walls. More chilling is the frequent appearance of a half-seen young man, dressed in Edwardian clothing. Witnesses speak of him only from the waist up, emerging briefly on the staircase before fading back into shadow. Some believe he is the restless spirit of a former resident trapped when the staircase was walled off, forever trying to climb into the light. One evening, a guide glimpsed him leaning on the banister with a wistful expression, then melting away as she approached. Moving shadows glide across corridors where no one walks, and cold patches linger on landings warmed by modern heating. Visitors sometimes sense a presence just behind them. On the stairs, a soft breath, or the faint brush of a sleeve, yet the staircase remains empty when they turn. A guest once felt a gentle pressure at her back, as though someone unseen urged her upwards. Whether these events are the echo of long-forgotten accidents or simply the house remembering its own making, Staircase House offers a haunting finale to Greater Manchester's hidden stories. From the market chatter outside to the quiet creaks within every timber seems to hold a memory. As we leave this historic dwelling, the sense of a life paused, mid-step, lingers, closing our journey through 11 of Greater Manchester's most unsettling haunts. Greater Manchester's ghostly stories are far from over. Share your own eerie encounters in the comments, and subscribe to Creepy Experience for more haunted journeys across Britain's darkest corners.